Hi everyone, it's me, Arden Lee, and I'm back here today with another topic that I want to talk about, which is, are you hexing yourself with your thoughts? The other day I jumped on here to talk a little bit about the incel community and how it was their toxic beliefs that are really keeping them out of connecting with others. And if you haven't seen that one, you might want to go check that out too. I'm going to be posting it to my YouTube later as well. So I wanted to broaden things a little bit today and talk about the power of our thoughts to create our reality. And I know we hear that from people all the time. Yeah, your thoughts create your world. Your thoughts, yeah, we live in the Matrix, and yeah, our world is based up on our perception. But I want to talk a little bit more specifically about what this means, because it's something that I've dealt with in myself. It's something that I see in other people all the time, and it's something that is super changeable. It's something that is, that's super preventable. And I see people do it all the time now that I recognize what it is, and I see people doing it in their lives. And so I wanted to jump on here today and talk about what that is and how to not do that, because it's no fun. That is no fun whatsoever. The first time I ever took a class on specifically in a magical modality about uncrossing and unhexing, I took the class at the Green Man from a man named Griffin Ked, who is a really incredible teacher, a very charismatic speaker. If you guys are located in LA at all, I totally recommend going over to the Green Man and catching any of his class series. He's a really terrific guy, and I've learned a lot from his series. So the thing that he said during that class, here we are to learn how to break hexes or do uncrossing spells, which means removing bad luck. And he spent the majority of the class saying, don't give these things your energy. The worst thing that you can do is believe that someone has cursed you, because then you're going to keep reinforcing it. Oh my God, this person is hexing me, or this person put a curse on me, and now, well, then if you're believing that, then they've already won, of course, if you really think that someone is that powerful and is engaging with you. And I see people all the time who are creating these imaginary relationships in their head of what's going on between them and another person when that person's not even in the picture, or maybe the person is in the picture, but they're so, if someone is engaging in that energy with you of that, oh, I'm going to start a fight, I'm going to start drama, I want to, then the best thing to do, obviously, is just to let that shit play out over there and not give it any weight and any credence. That's not to say, like, oh, just ignore it if someone is abusing you. Obviously, if there is actual abuse going on, if someone is harming you, then of course you seek justice. But even in seeking justice, that's about, the energy of seeking justice is about bringing things to light and making sure that you're safe and that everything is fair, that you have your basic human rights. It's not about engaging in this witch war, this like, oh, well, I'm going to hex you back, or I'm going to do this, and I'm going to prove I'm more powerful, or whatever. Because if you're still in a state where you have to prove yourself, how powerful are you really? If you're really that powerful, then you should probably be using your power for something more useful and more productive than engaging in a witch war with someone else and, trying to be like the fairies in Sleeping Beauty who can't decide whether the dress should be red or blue, and just, sending this energy back and forth. And, I see that go on sometimes, and, I've had friends of my own who have been trapped in that energy, and I've always tried to, when they've come to me for advice, I've always tried to say, like, you're giving this person weight, you're giving this situation weight, this is something that happened in the past. This person is, if they're not actively trying to cause you harm in your life, or even if they're trying to do something by, sneaky means, going around and, spreading, rumors about you to other people, or whatever, it's kind of like, you're, first of all, who's going to believe them? Your word, your integrity is your absolute best defense. So I want to talk about how this can happen, because it's not even just in our relationships with other people. Yes, we can get, we can get embroiled in drama or battles or whatever and give way too much weight to situations that we shouldn't be, where our energy is really better spent elsewhere. But over time also, we also develop our beliefs about what the world looks like and what the world is, and we develop those beliefs based on the evidence that we have in the past. Now, our brains do some things when we see things, when we take in information. So here we are, we're in the world, and like right now I'm in my living room and I'm looking around and I can see everything that's in front of me. But if I were to close my eyes, I would not be able to tell you what, say, like the sixth book from the left is on, my bookshelf or whatever. I would not be able to look over there and tell you exactly every last detail. If I close my eyes, it's there. And that's because our brains do three things. They delete, distort, and generalize the information. So they take in information, our brains take in information at roughly 8 billion bits per second. And because we can't possibly hold all this information, I can't possibly, tell you from my conscious mind the name of every book that I own, because I don't need to. It's right there. I can look at it if I need to. So what my brain does with, the picture of that wall that I just thought of in my brain, when I close my eyes, is I'm going to delete the information that's not necessary. So I don't know the name of every book. I don't know exactly how many papers are over there. I don't know, I can't name all the candles that I have on the shelves, whatever. Distorts. It distorts the information as well, so it fits it in a smaller package. It's kind of like a computer that's compressing information. So if it's distorting the information, then it's like, I might say, well, I think there were roughly about a dozen candles over there, but it could be that there were actually 15, probably even more than 15 actually. I really like candles. But it's basically compressing it, and it's losing some of the accuracy of the information in order to get a clearer picture. And then it generalizes. It basically just says, I'm looking over there and it's like, there's 2 bookshelves, there's a desk in between, and there's a bunch of books on them, a couple flowers and whatever. So it's making a general picture of what's over there. Now again, I could look over there, and now that I'm looking at the bookshelf, I could tell you exactly everything that's on it while I'm looking at it. There's no need for my mind to retain that. So what does this have to do with hexing ourselves? I know you're asking by now. So when we go around and we have situations in our lives that we live and we have experiences, our brains do the same thing. It takes the situations that we've lived, it deletes some of the information that it deems unnecessary, it distorts it in order to compress it into a picture that makes more sense, and it generalizes it in order to, again, fit it into a small capacity that can retain in our memories. So our memories of how things have happened are not always accurate. Certainly, this is obvious. Anyone who has been witness to a crime scene or whatever, that there's all different stories, based on what people are seeing and what people are perceiving. It's like there's my version, there's your version, and then there's the truth. So where this gets problematic is we have our beliefs that form when we're, pretty young, mostly from, the time we're born to when we're 18, is normally kind of what we think of as our formative years, but especially from when we're 0 to 4. And our real deep set beliefs about attachment, about what it means for us to exist in the world, about our nurturing love relationships, maybe some of them not so nurturing, about what we need to do to survive. If you look at babies, for example, one of the first things that a baby will learn is, if I cry, do I get fed? Do I get fed if I cry, or do I get yelled at if I cry? What is my strategy for my survival? If I need something, if I need to be fed, if I need to be held, if I need to be burped, or whatever it is that babies need, what do I do to do that? And so babies, for example, who are encouraged to cry, it's like, oh, you're crying, here, let me take care of you and let me give you food. They learn that that's an effective strategy. If a baby is punished for crying, then they're going to stop crying after a while, because there's this obviously isn't working for me, so I guess maybe I can sort of start to survive on my own or whatever. So we have these strategies that get planted in us in our early early times in our life, and these form our beliefs about the world. If I cry, I can expect to get held. If I cry, actually, I expect that people will ignore me or whatever. And as we keep growing older and even into our adult lives, we start to delete, distort, and generalize all the information of our memories and all the scenarios that we've been watching to fit the set of beliefs that we already have. I'm about to blow your mind with this one because we all do this. We all do this, and it really blinds our view of the world. Some of you guys might have heard of the term confirmation bias already. It's pretty it's a pretty well-known term, and basically what that means is that if there's something that you already think, then you're going to look for evidence that already supports your beliefs, right? We talk about this in politics all the time. If you read an article that supports Trump, you don't even click on it. You don't even want to read it. You know, you're like, I don't even want to go there. I want more evidence of the things that I already believe because it makes me feel good to be right. And that's human nature, and that's fine. Now, we can certainly expand ourselves by reading things from other different perspectives and trying to exercise our brains a little more. I think that's a smart thing to do. But overall, you know, I'm not gonna lie, you guys, I'm not gonna go out there and read Trump articles. I just have better things to do with my time. But where this does sometimes get to be a problem is if we are constantly reinforcing the things that we already believe and our beliefs aren't serving us. So what does that mean if our beliefs aren't serving us? Well, if we always think that things are not going in our favor, or things are never working out, or we always have it the worst, or we have such bad luck, or people are always terrible to each other, or whatever, then we're gonna keep seeing that in the world. And that's pretty much literally what it means when I say you are hexing yourself. You are choosing a core belief within your confirmation bias that is going to get you terrible results because you're going to start seeing all the stuff that you don't want to see. So this is kind of like, you know, we talk about confirmation bias, and the easiest way for me to explain it to you is that, you know, people talk about all the time if they go out and they buy a new car. Let's say that they just bought a new red Lexus, and all of a sudden they're seeing all of these red Lexi all over the road. Well, are there more red Lexuses than there were yesterday, or are you just noticing them now because you're like, oh, hey man, I have a red Lexus too, awesome, oh look, there's another one. That's exactly it, because they're confirming more about your view of the world. So in doing that, if we have a set of beliefs that we're not aware of, if we have this red Lexus that we're driving, well, do you want to be in a red Lexus? Do you want to see all of these other red Lexuses on the road, or what do you want to be seeing more of? So that's what ends up happening, is that our brains will start cherry picking, right? Delete, distort, and generalizing everything in our experience in order to be familiar to what we already know. So that's how I could, you know, study with the best pickup artist seduction tactics for years, you guys. For years. I'm super smart. I'm so great at applying skills, you know. I got certified in NLP. I wrote an entire book on what it meant to create attraction, and my relationships were still not satisfying. Now, I was great at, you know, being seductive and creating this archetype and persona, and that took me some, you know, to some very adventurous places, and I don't regret any of that, as I've spoken publicly about before, although I also recognize when it's like, you know, 2018 and it's, you know, time to grow up and move on from you know, doing the stupid shit you did when you were in your 20s. So so the reason that all of those attraction tactics still weren't getting me into healthy relationships is that I didn't have a model for what being treated well actually looked like, because I grew up with an abusive dad. You know, I'm not like, you know, I've made my peace with all that. Like, it's no big deal. And I knew even growing up, I was like, this guy's a crazy person. Like, this really has nothing to do with me. Like, I'm fine. So I always thought that it never affected my self-esteem. However, what I didn't have was a positive example. You know, I didn't have an example of what it did look like for a man to treat me well. So it wasn't a surprise that I ended up in all these relationships where it's like, I can get the person I want. Like, wow, I'm great at pickup. I'm great at creating attraction. I'm great at approaching people. I'm great at getting them to be interested in me. That's fabulous. But wow, I'm still not finding love. Like, I'm not finding lovability, you know? And of course that's because my internal beliefs were, you know, I didn't know what that looked like. I knew what it looks like, you know, I have a great mom. My mom and I get along really well. I know what it's like to have a woman in your life who loves you, who supports you, that you can be emotionally intimate with, and I have great female friendships. I was really in the dark for a long time about what a healthy relationship with a man even looked like. And I had to start actually going out of my way to spend time with my friends who were in healthy relationships. And I was like, I need to fix my model. Like, my model here is broken. This is ridiculous. You know, I would go out all the time when I was in my 20s with men who, you know, I look back and I'm like, that was just stupid. Like, that was a terrible decision. Why did I spend so much time thinking that that person was so great? You know, and again, it's because I felt, I didn't feel lovable. So I didn't really, so it made sense to me when men specifically did not treat me well, because I was like, oh, well, that makes sense. That's kind of what, you know, that's what I'm familiar with. So therefore it's on me to just be better, and I'm going to be hotter. I'm going to lose 10 pounds. I'm going to, you know, whatever. And, you know, weirdly enough, it's like, I'm very capable of manifesting things. So like, yeah, I would like lose the 10 pounds, or I would, you know, get a modeling gig, or I would publish a book, or like all these things that I did to be worthy, you know, to be attractive or whatever. And I got to a point where I was like, y'all, I have reached the law of diminishing returns, and people are still not treating me the way that I feel like a person of my caliber should be treated. And then I had to really examine that, and I was like, why does this always happen to me? Like, why do I always get into these situations where people aren't treating me well? And it was at that moment that I realized, based on confirmation bias, that my brain was cherry picking my anecdotal evidence. Because I was always like, you know, even Neil Strauss, like when I used to work with Neil back in the day, I remember Neil being like, Arden, you're more hardcore about pickup than I am. Like, you're like dissecting more things minute by minute than even I can do. But you don't need it. Like, you're fine. You're worthy just as you are. And I looked at Neil and I said, I have empirical data that state otherwise. Because I really didn't believe it, because I wasn't seeing anything that showed up for me. So I look back, so I really took the time to examine, you know, going back through my history and being like, where was I just not seeing the other cars on the road? Where was I just not seeing the examples of people who were showing up for me, or people who were treating me well? And I went back and I was like, I think there may have been some people in my life who actually were showing up for me and wanted to treat me well, and it was just weird to me. It was just uncomfortable. It was just like, I don't get this. I don't have a frame of reference for this. This doesn't jive with my story. So, you know, there probably were a lot of opportunities for me to change things back then just by shifting what I was noticing. It's kind of weird and bizarre that, you know, like, do you realize, guys, how like kind of weird and embarrassing it is to have done all of this work on yourself, on your, you know, your external social market value, and then get to a point where you're just like, well, that was a waste of time. It's kind of funny. It's kind of like the way that I joke about owning so many expensive shoes. You know, when I was in New York and I was doing that fabulous, like, oh, I'm a lingerie model and I'm, you know, in the New York nightlife scene, and I was a go-go dancer, and I used to, you know, go out in my agent provocateur and my Louboutins, and it was like, you know, I wanted to be like Agnes Dane, you know, I wanted to be that, like, I was like, if I'm that cool kind of like, you know, hip young socialite New Yorker interesting personality, then you know, then that's me living my best life, basically. I was like, that's what everyone wants to be, so that's what I want to be too. And you know, in many ways it's great, because I got to explore that and I got to see what it was like, and you know, but it was really unfulfilling. So now I'm like, wow, I have a closet full of Hervé Leger dresses and Christian Louboutin shoes, and like I feel silly, you guys. I'm like, I'm not even that person anymore. I'm like not even that, but I'm like, fuck it, who cares? I'm like, at least like I'll probably never have to buy clothes again as long as I stay the same size. I'm like, I have everything I possibly need from here on out, you know. But it is. I'm like weirdly proud of my closet and like weirdly ashamed of it at the same time. It's kind of funny, but oh well. I have it now. I might as well wear it, I guess. So all of this is, so all of that is to say that I was working, like I said in the last couple videos, my algorithm was off. I was trying to work on the wrong things. So it comes down to, where are you putting your focus? What are you giving your attention to? What are you giving your time to? And if you're giving your time to all these situations of drama that happen to you, then yeah, you know, you're gonna feel like you're hexed. You're gonna feel like there's bad juju, there's energy, you know, bad energy around you or whatever. Oh, this person's messing with me, this person's hexing me. But it's you hexing yourself by allowing those thoughts. And again, I will say it, if someone is causing harm, you know, again, to bring justice to the surface and get your life back to normal, absolutely, of course. You know, if you wanna just, you know, cast one of those spells to be like, hey, anyone who tries to throw any shit my way, it just pings back on them or whatever. Me personally, I go with the belief of everything is always unfolding in my favor. So, you know, just today, actually, I got notified that I'm that I'm being sued in small claims court for the accident that I had over the summer, which the woman was totally at fault, and the police report says it was her fault, and she couldn't get anything out of my insurance company, I guess, so she decided to take me to small claims court, and I'm like, this is silly. And I'm like, actually, this is probably going to add to my lawsuit, because now I'm going to be able to say, like, you know, you tried to go out of your way to harass me in small claims when you knew that you had no grounds, and that's, you know, causing me more emotional distress. And yeah, like it caused me some emotional distress today for a little while. And then I was like, oh right, everything's always unfolding in my favor. I'm like, whatever she's doing, like she's just like playing into my own hands. So who cares about, you know, it's just like, it's just such bullshit. So, but you know, I could see easily where a couple years ago I'd have been like, oh my God, this always happens to me. This is terrible. Now I'm going to lose all this money that she's suing me for. I felt powerless to do anything. You know, I had falling outs with people I was working with a couple years ago, you know, in a creative capacity, where I was like, you know, it was like 2.5 years ago, no, it was like a year and a half ago, whatever it was. You know, I was having a falling out with some people I was, you know, working with creatively, and I could see like where I was healing, because I could see that there was a pathway that like went this way, and the pathway that went this way was like, this always happens, people always fuck me over, they're always trying to get in my business and steal what's mine, and everyone's just out to get me and whatever, and to collapse into that line of thought and feel like I was powerless, like I was a victim in this situation. And then like in the other way, I was like, all right, this sucks, but you know what? These people that I was working with that I thought I trusted showed their true colors, and now I know, thank God they showed it this soon, so I can move on and I can do, you know. And I was like, all right, what do I have to untangle, you know? And I ended up, you know, bringing on a different collaborator who was like so much more talented than the other two people I was working on the project with to begin with, and it all unfolded in my favor. So I was like, oh great, there's more evidence of things unfolding in my favor. So again, are you hexing yourself? What are your thoughts telling you? What are you giving your energy to? You know, you are responsible for the way that you respond to situations. And, you know, being attacked is never fun. Having a crazy lady who ran a stop sign, I'm sorry for using the word crazy, she was belligerent. We will put it that way. That is not an ableist slur. She was belligerent upon the scene, upon running a stop sign and T-boning my car, which was totally her fault. She was very belligerent. You know, having this belligerent woman like file a lawsuit against me, but like I can come on and be like, this is such bullshit. I'm gonna jump on and do my Facebook Live about how I'm not gonna give this my energy because I already know that I'm in the right. So, you know, I trust that everything is gonna work out just fine. I trust that. In fact, you know, since I cast for my getting the maximum settlement legally possible, I actually trust that whatever this is actually playing into her making herself look like an ass, so I actually do even better in the long run. So I want you guys to think about this, and I want you to come and check out my new group course. It's called the Repatterning Project, and this is where we go in there and we look at all your beliefs, all the things that you think about the world that are true, you think that they're true about the world, and we're going to go in and unpack them, and we're going to examine whether they actually are, and we're going to try and install new beliefs that are going to serve you better, so you can just get better results in your life, so that, you know, shit flies and, you know, hits the fan or whatever and flies at you, you're just like, you know, not, you know, not dealing with that or whatever, not by avoiding it, but rather by like Aikidooing it, you know, using all that energy that people are throwing at you to work out for you. You know, it's like, you know, we had a pretty rough Mercury retrograde last month, and a lot of my friends were complaining about, oh my God, like car troubles and this, and I had this breakdown, I had to call a tow truck. One of my friends was like, I got stuck with a flat, and I was like, well, I didn't really have a bad Mercury retrograde at all, actually. And then I was like, oh wait, I did get a flat tire. I was like, but I noticed the tire was flat when I was at the bank, so I knew that there was a tire shop that was like, you know, a mile and a half away, so I just drove there and I bought a new tire for $35, and then I drove to work. So again, it's like all about how you deal with these situations, you know. Don't hex yourself. Give yourself a set of beliefs that is going to make everything work out in your favor. It's just so much better to live this way. It's just less stressful. It's, you know, you're not gonna constantly be seeing all the things that that you don't want to see. You want to start seeing the things that you do want to see, and in order to do that, you just need to shift your focus, shift your beliefs. So please come join me for the repatterning project. We start July 1st. I'm starting to get some of the people together, and I want to get a handful of people together so I can start actually launching the Facebook group that's going to come along as part of that course. I would love, you guys, I would love to get that Facebook group up and launched as soon as possible, so that we can already, even before the course begins, we can start sharing resources. We can start, you know, having discussions going about what we want to learn. That's going to help me formulate the course even more. I mean, I'm pretty set on what I'm going to teach, but, you know, anything could happen. You know me, I like to go on my weird little tangents, so who knows? If there's something specific you want to learn about, maybe that's something that I didn't even know I wanted to teach, so hit me up. So send me a message if you're interested. It's, you know, again, this is a group online course, so I priced it as affordable as possible because I want people, you know, I want people to be able to come in and do this. I want people to be able to do this work, and so it's like, it's way less than 8 weeks of therapy would be, and you're getting more time and more personalized attention and more work and more group support. So I hope you guys will check it out. You can also check out the page for more information. You can go to sacredsirens.com/the-repatterning-project, and that's all one word. And tell me what you think. Hit me up with a message if you want to join, and let's let's quit doing dumb things with our thoughts, you guys. The collective needs us. The world needs us at our best right now. All right, you guys have a great evening. Again, I'm Arden Lee. Thanks for hanging out and chatting with me, and hit me up if you want to do some work.